Hey, what's going on? I'm Sisyphus, and this is episode 3 of What You're Missing. So I'm going to run you through some of the news from last week. Right at the top, Apple purchased Beats for $3.2 billion. I'm not sure if you read about that, but it's not specifically gaming, but it's kind of gaming because, I don't know, I worked in gaming headsets for a little bit, and a lot of people talked about Beats. So I'm going to talk to you about it just for a moment. So Beats sold for $3.2 billion to Apple. And I've heard a lot of people ask why Apple would buy Beats headsets. So first off, it's because they make music players, and Beats headsets are headsets. So the two pair nicely because one requires the other. I know it's a simple concept, but it goes beyond that to the point that actually it makes a lot of sense if you think about it. First, from the standpoint that Apple's whole design philosophy has been about controlling every aspect of the experience from the beginning to the end with their computers and with their phones and all of that from day one. It's sort of the whole idea behind Apple in the first place. And so it makes logical sense that they would own headsets. Now, buying Beats makes sense also in part because Beats has followed a very similar aesthetic design where it's uniform across all of their headsets. I'm a little jaded, so I'm going to say this, but it emphasizes fashion over function. So you're paying for a lot of what you're seeing as opposed to what you're hearing. For headphones, I think that's stupid, but that goes right along with Apple's philosophy. So, I think it's an intelligent decision, or at least it makes a lot of sense culturally for the companies and just in general. Now, what it has done is it's probably made every Tom, Dick, and Harry, or I guess I should say RZA, Ludacris, and 50 Cent, think that they're going to be the next billionaire after Dr. Dre. I'm sorry, guys. You have a lot to make up for before you're going to catch up with Dr. Dre. And I'm not just talking about your headphones. So good luck to you. Probably not going to happen. Next up, Elder Scrolls Online for consoles has been delayed 6 months. Uh, this is basically a metaphor for video games in general and the tech industry as a whole. So let me give you a metaphor to go along with that metaphor, or a metaphor for the metaphor, if that makes sense. It's basically like eating pizza. So you probably think about pizza at 11 o'clock, or if you're like me, maybe 10 o'clock in the morning. You start thinking about what you're going to have for dinner. You plan your lunch around it. Maybe you've been planning your lunch and dinner around for the last 2 to 3 days. You've been thinking about pizza. You've been wanting pizza. You've been dreaming about pizza. So when it comes time to get the pizza shows up, and it's really fucking hot. So you wait, but you don't wait long enough. So you eat the pizza, you burn the shit out of your mouth, and the pizza's good, but it tastes kind of weird because you've literally burned your mouth. And what you really need to do is you need to let the pizza cool, but not too much, because if you let it cool too much, then it gets stale and it just doesn't taste quite right. You want the cheese to be melted. You want the sauce to be a little spicy, not so hot that it burns to the touch, but just warm enough that it just I really want pizza now. But anyway, you get my point. So software and game releases, especially massively multiplayer or online-centric games, are like pizza. They get delivered to you piping hot, but not quite ready to eat. Sometimes they're missing toppings. So you need to wait just a little bit. Let people iron out their shit, and then you can jump in. SimCity is a good example. Elder Scrolls Online, apparently they're having issues. So that's where we're at. 6 month delay, PS4, Xbox One. Then you'll get your Elder Scrolls Online, which, from what I hear, it's a good game, but maybe not the world-changing game that everybody was hoping or thought it would be. Next on the list is the Unreal Tournament. Now, for those of you who have been gamers for a long time, especially those of you who are into shooters, you probably played one of the original Unreal Tournament games, and they came out with an announcement and said that they were going to be working on kind of a new Unreal Tournament game using their latest Unreal Engine and all of the latest technology. So a lot of people got excited. So the headline read, it's free as long as you make it. Now, I interpreted that to mean that basically, if you can get through a gauntlet or be the last person standing in a death match, you'll get the game for free. But if you can't, you got to pony up for it. That's wrong. So I misread that headline. Thankfully, I read the entire article. So what it actually meant is that if you want to play the game, you're going to have to help them make it. So let me walk you through this. So Kickstarter is basically saying, hey, why don't you give us money and we'll make it. This is them saying, hey, we aren't going to charge for it and we're not going to pay you, but we need you to make it. And there's going to be maybe a handful of people on our team who are actually going to help you or do some of the work themselves. But the vast majority of it is going to be done by you. So you can do with that what you will. I don't know. I'm not going to be making Unreal Tournament. So hopefully it gets made because it was a very popular game back in the day, and maybe there's a lot of potential, especially for a crowdsourced, and I do mean crowdsourced game creation. So maybe something really revolutionary will come from it, and this is what the industry needs. We'll see. Next up, somebody got Crysis 3 running at an 8K resolution. Now, before you sell a kidney and a sliver of your liver to try to pay for it, pay for the 8K display and the lifetime supply of liquid nitrogen that you would need to run your rig at 8K, realize that it only ran at like 2 to 3 frames per second and was mostly used just to take screenshots, which are beautiful screenshots, don't get me wrong, but we're not quite there yet. So maybe in 10 years, you can get a glimpse of what we will be working with if you look at some of the screenshots that this gentleman made. Next up, Nintendo posted a $452 million operating loss for the last fiscal year. That's a lot of money. Nintendo is in trouble. I don't know if you've heard of Wii U. I'm sure most of you have heard of Wii. When the Wii U came out, I originally thought that it was an add-on for the Wii, I think. But it's actually an entirely new console, and they're having a very hard time of it. I think it's got an install base of about 6 million units. I don't remember exactly off the top of my head, but it's not growing very quickly, and it's definitely not having a lot of games being developed for it. I heard today that Ubisoft is developing Watch Dogs for it, along with all of the other consoles and PC. So they've got Watch Dogs coming, I guess, but look out for Nintendo losing a lot of money, and hopefully they won't go the route that Sega did, start licensing their stuff and get out of the hardware business, because that would be grim. I know a lot of people love Nintendo and Nintendo IP, and it would be sad to see Mario and Luigi and all of them go the route of Sonic the Hedgehog. Sonic the Who? Right. Well, not a lot of people who weren't born in the 80s know who Sonic the Hedgehog is. So, anyway, next up, Destiny is costing almost $500 million to develop and promote. Now, as a point of comparison, the game that I'm always going to be saying something about is Star Citizen, and they've raised $43 million as of, I think, right now. And there are a lot of people on the internet up in arms about how much money Star Citizen has raised. I mean, there's a lot of people on the internet up in arms about everything, almost all the time, so this is nothing new, but they're saying that, you know, there's too much money going into this game, but let's be real, it's not $500 million, so I don't know, maybe let's back off Star Citizen for a while. Now, I've got a question for you. So, Nintendo lost $452 million, and Bungie is spending almost $500 million on developing and promoting their game. Did Bungie steal from Nintendo? I'm not saying they did, but I'm not saying they didn't either. Something to consider. I saw The Amazing Spider-Man today, just as an aside. My review will be simply phrased with, what the fuck? That's all. Last on the news list, Don't Starve is coming out with a multiplayer version of the game, or at least an update that adds multiplayer to it. It's called Don't Starve, the Donner Party Edition. And It's okay. It's not called that, but that's basically what it could be called if you ask me. Um, the game's about not starving, and it's about surviving. And if there's going to be someone else there, you do the math. I did it. I'm pretty good at math, and I'm probably going to be trying to eat my friend. That's all I'm saying. Uh, if you think about it though, Don't Starve in multiplayer sounds a lot like a real life simulator, minus the whole dying if it gets dark thing. That would be pretty grim. But I mean, if I gather firewood and you go harvest carrots, that sounds familiar. But don't 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 go out into the dark. Okay, that's fine. That's sort of understandable. Look out for the beefalo when they're in heat, and don't go near the pigs during the full moon. I mean, this is all sage wisdom. So, I mean, if you don't want to escape real life, but you want to live it, I guess look up Don't Starve, the multiplayer version, when it ends up coming out. So, that's it for this week, and tomorrow I will probably be showing, or at least talking about, what games I played this week. Um, just as a teaser, it involves hammer pants. That's all I'm going to say. So you'll have to tune in tomorrow and see what the hell I'm talking about with hammer pants. So have a good week, and I'll see you next Monday.